Committee reports. Legislative update, Mr. Shorter.
Yes, thank you. Let's see. Okay. Got a lot of papers here. Okay, a few things. Hey. This is in regards to our foundation payments and funding. Back in, I think it was May 2020, we actually received information that we were gonna have a cut, and so we incorporated that. We, we were definitely not happy to hear it, but with the pandemic, we understood that there were going to be some impacts. So there is good news. I just wanted to share that with you. So Governor DeWine signed an executive order January 22nd that implements budget reductions for fiscal year 2021 and partially restores the funding cuts made to K through 12 education in the fiscal year. So K through 12 foundation payments were cut by $300 million in fiscal year 2020, and districts continue to see reduced foundation payments in fiscal year 2021. So his executive order will make the net reduction for fiscal year 2021 $140 million. So we're restoring $160 million back to districts. So DeWine made the following statement: with this executive order, we are finalizing current year budget reductions at $390 million across all agencies, which is less than the cuts implemented last year. Because the cuts implemented today are less than last year's reductions, Office of Budget and Management Director Kim Murnix is authorized to allocate to the Ohio Department of Education an additional $160 million. So for Fairfield City Schools, we received a cut of about $1.6 million back in May of 2020, but with the new net reduction level, our district is slated to receive $900,000. So we're pretty happy about that. And Mrs. Lane will have more of that to come in her forecast, but we're really happy to hear about that. The cuts were hard, but it's always good to see your money's come back a little bit. The next item that I wanted to bring you guys up to date on is House Bill 1. House Bill 1 is that fair school funding. That was the Cup-Patterson funding model, but we're under the 133rd Congress, and as a result of that, the bill that was House Bill 305 is House Bill 1. There were hearings on the 4th of February, and Michael is actually going to provide a little bit more information when he does his Butler Tech report, because we've got some updates from one of our, was it a senator?
Yes.
Also great. So in addition to House Bill 1, we're going to keep an eye on that. But another one that's really urgent and pressing, there are two House bills that are basically tied together. So House Bill 67 basically seeks to have a state waiver from the Department of Education. Now, this was introduced by Representative Kohler out of Springfield and Representative Byrd from New Richmond. So basically with House Bill 67, we would request that state testing requirements are actually waived by order of the Department of Education. So we're seeking a waiver from that testing at the federal level. And House Bill 40 is basically just a waiver for state testing. So one is asking the Department of Education to grant a waiver. The other is requesting state waivers throughout the state. So in addition to those three bills that we're tracking, Governor DeWine has recently announced that there are going to be plans specifically coordinated to address any learning loss due to the pandemic. So those gaps that we may see in testing and some of the achievement for our students, no later than April 1st, we should actually have districts providing plans to the public in the General Assembly as to how districts are going to use funding to address those educational gaps. So that's good news. Of course, with the state waivers, there are always, different people, different parties that have different ideas about whether or not we should waive state testing. So I won't bore you with the comments that were made by our various representatives, but I will just say that it makes sense, in my opinion, and I'm sure the rest of my board members as well, that with the pandemic, we should focus more on the whole student. We have dealt with such a challenging time. It really makes sense for us to focus on basically just keeping, well, that's embarrassing. Okay, I'll address my phone. But it would make sense to basically just try to address the whole student and keep the whole student in mind instead of rigorous testing while we're still battling a pandemic. Sorry.
That's
And
probably
that's gonna
someone
be-
in messaging you telling you they saw Brio and that she did a great job.
It probably is, but with the amount of junk in my phone, I'll never find my phone, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm gonna step out.
Is that the rest of your report, or you want to come back to it?
That's the rest of it.
Okay, okay. We've all had those moments,
Right.
right? So, I guess I'll just piggyback, if that's okay with the rest of the board, I'll piggyback, not part of the Butler Tech, but part of legislative. At the Butler Tech meeting on Tuesday, Senator Bill Blessing, who is the Vice Chair of Primary and Secondary Education, he zoomed into our board meeting, and he kind of gave us an update as to what the Senate's response to House Bill 1 is, okay? So Senator Blessing has been tasked to find a rational idea about where the school funding money would come from. So there's just not an endless supply of money. What would need to be cut to bring a certain amount of money into the budget? He said that the Senate response to the fair funding formula is close to being done. They just have some issues with the Cupp-Patterson bill that they're trying to work through. He said that the Cupp-Patterson bill has funding for $7,200 per student. The old amount was $6,020, and the Senate plan is somewhere in the middle per student. Things that they're looking at are the student-to-teacher ratio in schools, what teacher salaries are per pupil, and what the building and administration costs are for school districts. He said that the plan is that school funding will increase, but he just doesn't know what that increase will be. We also asked about what about the cap and the guarantee, because of course we know Fairfield's on the cap, and he said the cap is probably not going away, but they do plan on increasing the amount that it could raise. He said, and definitely they feel this will get done in this budget session. So that's just something I want to add on to the legislative update that Mr. Shorter had tonight. I didn't have a chance to get that to her. So any questions on that?
I'd just like to make a comment, I'm sorry. I find it very interesting, Senator Blessing's comments when the fair school funding bill, just for the board's information, is made up, the people that make up that group are finance treasurers, former treasurers, what I would consider experts about school funding. And I find it very interesting that Senator Huffman and Senator Blessing, I don't believe has consulted any of the people, the experts, in my opinion, about their plan. So I hate politics, I'll be honest with you, but I think a lot of this is all politics. And if there's still a cap in place, then they haven't fixed school funding.
I agree with you.
So, sorry.
Yeah, I was just
my
giving you
comments.
update. I wasn't defending one way or the other.
No,
just
I
telling
know.
you
I'm
what
just-
he said.
I just think sometimes the board, I don't think we're aware of all the people that have been involved in the school funding piece. And believe me, people that I respect, highly respect, that have been in the business for 30 years, many of them are on that fair school funding plan group. And to me, they are the experts, not
Yeah,
other
to my
people in the
understanding, this is
Senate.
a group of senators looking at this, not educational professionals.
Yep.
So. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, so for Butler Tech update, I did email everyone a copy of the Student Success newsletter. I hope you had a chance to view it. If Just want to point out a couple things on that the Butler Tech website has been updated, it's been redone. I guess they looked at what we did with the Fairfield website and how much better it is now, and they said, well, we better update ours, so. And here's a kind of a two-page advertisement for the Education Revolution documentary that is out there on YouTube right now, and it's really good. It follows 4 students from the 2019 year through the pandemic of 2020, and then as they entered into the 2020 school year, 2020, 2021 school year as well. So I hope you all have a chance to look that over. And the other thing is that the menu for Cafe Lee is also in this newsletter. And actually today and tomorrow there is a Fairfield student doing a Korean lunch. And then next week, February 25th and 26th, there is a Fairfield student doing a Jamaican lunch. And then on May 25th and 26th, there is a Fairfield student doing a New England lunch. And so that's in here in the newsletter. I sent you electronic copies. If you have a chance. Oh, I'm sorry. And there's also 2 Fairfield students in April doing a Dominican-Mexican lunch. Reservations are required. And so if you go onto the Butler Tech website, and that's how you can find out how to make reservations. Okay, any questions on the newsletter?
Sounds delicious.
It was. Susan and I went there a couple weeks ago and had a tremendous filet steak lunch. So it was really good. The rest of the Butler Tech update, I have some slides up on the screens. The first, we're going to talk a little bit about the Natural Science Center and the new building that we're working on. This is sort of an aerial view, and in the middle of the screen is actually the Monroe High School and elementary school campus, and part of that property is where the Butler Tech Natural Science Center is. So it's a separate tract of land, but it's accessible from the same driveway. So that land was donated to the Monroe City Schools many years ago by a family farmer. And so Butler Tech has a lease on that farm. And so if you can go to the next slide. So this is sort of an aerial view of the actual buildings on the campus. Going from, I guess, top left, there's, and going clockwise, there's like a riding area for horses, an outside riding area, and then the big white roofed building is a large indoor riding arena. And then the building, smaller building, white building to the right is actually where the barn for the stable for the horses are. That's where also the saddles and bridles and all those things, and the hay is stored in that building. That building is due to be have an addition put on it. If you look to the right of that building, to the right of the driveway, you'll see the flat roofed building. Those are actually 2 modulars. And those are the classrooms where kids learn about social studies, math, science, all those things. So that's not the labs. That's where they go to get lunch. That's where they go for advisory with their counselors and things like that. And so those buildings were intended to be a 2 to 3 year temporary fix, and we're on year 11 of those buildings being there. This is a project we've been working on for about 5 or 6 years to try to replace them. Butler Tech is currently releasing those modulars for $100,000 a year. Oh. So they've actually outlasted their use, and so that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. At the bottom part of that, underneath that, the modular building is another barn, and that's where we hold more horses. And so that's where the geldings are. So the plan is that we're going to add on to the barn where the other horses are so that all the horses can be in the same location. Right now, they're having to walk the horses into the other barn, get the saddles on them and feed them. You know, all that's located in the main barn, and so we're going to put it all together as one. Following the clock down to the other long building is actually an old barn That was the original barn that was on the property, and that has a lot of labs in it. And so like our veterinarian science is in that building. You know, they work on all kinds of small animals, and also like goats, sheep, all those types of things are brought into those buildings, and the students work with them. And then if you look directly across the driveway from that, there you see like a small green roofed building. That's actually a garage for the farmhouse, and that is where the principal and the secretary are in. They're in a garage. And so that is sort of what it is now, and then if you look forward to the next screen, we'll kind of go over what we're going to try to do. So that's what the new building is going to look like. As the students come off the bus, they're going to see that view of the building. They're going to be able to walk up and go to the main entrance that is there kind of on the right side of the screen. The idea was to make it look like a barn, make it look like a farmhouse sort of setting. We didn't want it to be, you know, the traditional schoolhouse look. So if you go to the next screen, it's just another view. You see in the bottom left-hand part is actually like where you see a horse there on the right. And so underneath the sort of the canopy on the left, those doors will open and they can bring the large animals, the horses and what have you, into the classroom instead of having to always work on them outside. So if you can go on, and so that's kind of the parking lot is in the back portion of that. That's another view of where you see they can go into the building there straight forward. And you can see the other animals, you can see the sheep and the goat and what have you in the dirt area. Okay, next screen. That's just, you can see the sort of the trees in the foreground. The farm was formerly an apple orchard. So what we're going to try to do is plant some apple trees, kind of get it the same feel as it was back when it was a working farm. That's just another area. You can see to the right where the parking area is for students and staff. Okay, you can, next slide. And that's sort of the front view. You can go back one, I apologize. Sort of the front view of you can see where the horse is on the back left, and then the other buildings to the right of this new school building. It kind of shows the expanded barn area for the other horses. But you can see how the doors that are in front of the concrete are actually going to be like garage door settings, so they should open up and to get some air into the building and what have you. Okay, next slide. Just another view of the main entrance where the kids would come in, and then the principal's office would be right there on the left as you come in for security reasons. They want to be able to let people in. And just another view of that entrance. Good. This is actually what from where the bus drop off would be. It's that kind of view. Okay, next slide. Yeah, again, that's from the bus. The bus would come in that semicircle, drop the kids off, and that's their walk to the school building. And then there on the right, you do see where that expansion of the barn is for the horse stable. That's kind of the back portion of it. Okay, next slide. And this is sort of an overview, like an aerial view of what it is. So again, you can see by that little tan circle, that's the expansion of the horse stables. You can see sort of the outline of the natural science building. We are going from 7,000 square feet in those modulars to 25,000 square feet. Like I said, we're going from 2 horse barns to 1 horse barn, which is going to be tremendous. The administration is going to be out of that barn, out of the garage, and we're going to turn that into another classroom. The Butler Tech has, and I'm sorry I don't know this exact figure, but it's either a 30-year new lease or a 50-year new lease with Monroe Schools for that property, and it's $1 a year lease. We had to secure that lease before we went through plans to put a building there. You can see where the bus loop is there on the bottom of the screen and the walk that they'll have. We plan on moving our vet science, which was in that old barn, into the new building, and then our landscape design students will move from the LaSourceville campus back into the high school campus. It's been working out okay now since we're in a hybrid model, that the landscape students are at LaSourceville 2 days a week, and then they're at the Monroe campus for their 2 days of classroom work. So it's kind of, I'm sorry, well, they're actually doing it remote, but they can come to that building for like advisory with their counselors and things like that. So, but, hopefully when we get back to 5 days a week, they'll all be in one central location. And this also would help with busing, that we don't have to bus to 2 different locations, it would be one location. Okay, I think that's the last slide, is that correct? Just another view. So the project, also, like I said, it was 25,000 square feet. We're also going to have a full kitchen service, whereas we don't really have that now. And that land is designed to, it can only be used for educational purposes. So, so yeah, there's just some aerial views of the service. If you can go back one, that would be great. So that's the view from, I guess that's 63, of what you would see, how the building would look from the road. You can see the old silo there and the old barn, which currently houses the vet science and some small animals. And then the indoor horse arena is to the left of the silo. And then, of course, the new building will be there on the right. Okay, go ahead. Just sort of an aerial view of what it's going to look like. Again, you see the expanded horse barn there next to the tan circle to get all the horses in the same barn. Okay, next view. Next view. That's it? Yes, sir. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but right now it looks like that might fall between the $9 and $11 million range for this building. The Butler Tech board has been working with our treasurer to set aside monies for the past several years, like going back like 5 years. And so there will be no need to go to taxpayers for any kind of bond money to build this, and we won't have to take out any kind of debt for it. We should be able to pay for it. So that's kind of what the budgeting is. We're trying to make sure that we're staying within the money that we have set aside for the project. Any questions?
What is your timeline on this?
That's a great question. I meant to say that. So we're in the design stage now. Once this current school year ends, whatever day that is, I think it's sometime in May, plan on hooking a truck up to those modulars and pulling them out, trying to do prep work, and then we're hoping to break ground in July or August of 2021, and then open it for school in August of 2022.
Wow.
Wow.
So it's aggressive. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to do our classroom work. It may require us to go into another year of hybrid learning so that we don't have classrooms for kids to go to, but they still come to the campuses for their labs. Or we may bring them to our LaSourceville campus, because that's our adult education campus, and those are mainly there in the evening, students, because they're adult students, and so we could have high school students there during the day in those classrooms. So that's kind of the idea. This was kind of our first look at it. We're pretty excited about it. It's not guaranteed it's going to be that color or that look, but we're kind of excited about the possibilities of not having students in modulars anymore, full time. That they deserve to have a better place to learn. So, any questions? That's a great question. Yeah.
Sure,
So,
looks great.
as we get more updates, I'll be happy to share them with you. Okay. Next thing on the agenda is the Planning Commission. Mr. Begley?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, I guess I stole all your time. Student achievement, Mrs. Gundrum.
There is so much going on that is just impressive, that I know I'm missing some things, but some highlights. Students around the district have been sort of celebrating random acts of kindness lately, and performing different acts of kindness for different groups. For example, South Elementary Student Council sent encouraging messages to virtual students, which I think was pretty cool. East Elementary first graders, they painted kindness rocks. And I tell you, my daughter and my nieces and nephews have painted rocks for kindness and left them places, and they just are tickled by that. So I bet that was a lot of fun for the first graders. East fifth graders wrote notes of appreciation, and the art club and Chick-fil-A leadership students wrote messages to residents at area senior communities. So I think that's pretty special. And then a whole lot of sports. There are so many sports achievements right now that I know I've missed some, and I apologize to any of the teams or players that I've left off here. The ladies bowling and JV ladies teams won their divisions, their respective divisions. And the Crossroads 7th grade girls basketball team went 15-0 this year, which is amazing, especially with all the challenges that teams have had this year. And of course, the boys basketball team, they got their first ever sole GMC championship. So congratulations, guys. Great job. And junior Logan Woods passed a landmark. He has scored more than 1,000 points in his high school career.
As a junior.
As a junior, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a huge deal. So congratulations to him. I've interacted with his dad before, and I mean, you can just tell they are so passionate about the game and about doing their best. And so it was really fun to see that for him. So I think that's all I have. But there has been so much that it was hard to just narrow down some special things that happened. So congratulations to everybody.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Any questions for Mrs. Gundrum? Okay, Mr. Clark, Parks and Recreation.
Yes, if you would pass those down, I meant to give those out earlier.
Thank you.
I want to thank Hammond's Catering and Butcher Shop. They delivered food to the board meeting the other night, so thank you, Hammond's, for doing that. What I'm handing out is it's really exciting. The Parks is purchasing some land at the corner of Grow and River Road, and that is going to connect the Waterworks Park and the Marsh Lake Park together, and that's pretty exciting. The more exciting part of that, financial-wise, is that the Parks Department has applied for a grant that will take care of 75% of the purchase and the improvements for that. So the city will only have to put up 25% for that. The other exciting part of that is this is what the landowner is wanting the land to go to. The owner wants it to be a park in the city of Fairfield, so she's very excited about that. And I want it to be known that the owner came to the city. We did not solicit them to sell it. She was excited when she was wanting to get rid of it, to come to the city with the offer to purchase for that. So it's pretty exciting for the city itself. You know, we have a great parks department in general, and all of our parks are very, very nice. And this is really going to connect two fantastic parks together with the Marsh Lake and Waterworks. And from what I understand, it's similar situation as the Huffman Park area. Again, with the ownership wanting it to be a park. So it's nice to have residents that want to give back to the community tangibly with the land that they own. So, and also, you can help the parks kind of get feedback on the parks themselves by going and taking a survey that is on Facebook. It's on their website. It's about 15 questions, but this will allow them to get some feedback from the community on what you like, what you don't like, what needs fixed, what needs to be replaced, and that kind of thing. So it's only 15 questions. I took it. It takes about 8 minutes. So if you can go and take that survey, I know they would greatly appreciate it. But I was excited to be there. Great people doing great things for our parks. That path that you see there, that's going to be about 12 to 15 feet wide. So it can be a walk as well as a bike path through there. the houses on the one side that you see, that's just the road drawing. You can see where the house and that is, and then if you flip it over, it's not as nice as Mr. Birding's slide. But you can see a little people with a little doggy there walking in the park. Everything that they are going to demolition, of course, they'll construct back up. The trees that are there, unfortunately, will have to be taken down as well, but they're going to plant many, many trees in place of that. Some of the trees are very old, but they're going to replace those with shelters and other trees, lighting, and a nice pathway. So that's pretty exciting stuff. I think they should have approval on the grant within the next 2 weeks. And from what the director, Tiffany Howard, had said, there are 7 applicants, but there's enough money for everybody that applied, more than enough money for everybody applied to get the grant that they request. It's not for sure, but it's looking good. It's looking good. So that's exciting news I have to share about the parks.
Oh, great. Any questions for Mr. Clark? This looks awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
So we'll be able to ride our bikes from Rensselaer all the way through Marsh.
Yep, it'll connect it. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Fantastic, great news.